Hi, welcome to the newest episode of the J-Karp Show. Today we're going to start things off with the NBA playoffs. As the 2012 NBA playoffs continue to unfold, the league's most talented players are registering some impressive stats. First, there are some key things that keep the playoffs interesting. Now, it took them a while to get noticed nationwide, but the San Antonio Spurs are finally garnering attention for their dominating run through the playoffs. The combination of dependable core veterans and a strong supporting cast has propelled the squad to a sweep of the first two rounds. Now here's how balanced the Spurs are. 9 different players score 6 or more points per game, and those same 9 all get at least 14 minutes of playing time. Next we have in the Eastern Conference the Miami Heat. With Chris Bosh out, they depend on LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, and they don't fail. The club misses Chris Bosh, and its lack of depth is painfully evident. Luckily, LeBron and D. Wade are dynamic players that can carry a team. Well, sometimes. But enough about them. In my opinion, Rajon Rondo is the best point guard in the playoffs right now. His 13.1 assists per game lead the next best by 5.5, and he's also chipping in 15.9 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 2.8 steals. Now, you want to talk about a team that did horrible in the playoffs? That's the LA Clippers. They coughed up the ball more times than any other team. They had 15 turnovers per game. Yep, that's pretty much why they lost. Offenses also, but 15 turnovers? Good lord. When Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden are clicking for the Thunder, there's nothing that can slow them down. That trio is scoring nearly 68 points per game in the playoffs, more than any other team's threesome. They're also pretty much the only facilitators on the squad, so they account for 65% of the team's assists. One of them goes down, they're in trouble. But speaking of trios, we go back to the Spurs. Their big three has a stat for their own to boast. 36 years of collective NBA experience, while the Thunder's trio only has 12 years. Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili's playmaking skills and heads-up ball movement keep the offense humming, while Tim Duncan's interior effort on both ends stabilizes the whole team. But now yesterday, the Miami Heat, actually 2 days ago, the Miami Heat beat the Indiana Pacers to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, I'm going to give the Pacers some credit. They had a good fight in them, but they're the Indiana Pacers, so they lost. But tomorrow we have Game 7 between the 76ers and the Celtics. Be sure to stay tuned for that and find out who wins. Now, before we go, there's one more hot topic I need to talk about for the NBA. It's about Stan Van Gundy. Recently, the Orlando Magic fired coach Stan Van Gundy and agreed to part ways with general manager Otis Smith. So two of the architects from one of the most successful runs in this franchise's history are gone in a snap. The thing is, though, people wonder why did they get fired? As successful as they were, does anybody not know the relationship with Dwight Howard? That was the centerpiece of drama the team faced all season. And following their second straight first-round playoff exit, CEO Alex Martins decided it was time. He said, quote, "It's time for new leadership and a new approach. We simply came to the decision that we are not on the right track." Wow, you don't say. You lost to the Pacers. Martins wouldn't go into many specifics about what he is looking for in replacements. He is saying, though, he and ownership want to fill the GM position by June's NBA draft. Well, it's May 25th, so it's really coming up. You got to be careful. But he said he'd sit down with ownership on Tuesday and begin ironing out the details of both searches. Phone and text messages left with Van Gundy and Smith by the Associated Press weren't immediately returned. But see, this is the thing. They went 37-29 in the season, but they were eliminated in 5 games by Indiana. The key for the Orlando Magic is undoubtedly Dwight Howard. Without Dwight Howard, the Orlando Magic went 5-12. That is not good. Okay? That is not good at all. Because you cannot be dependent on one player. Kind of like the Los Angeles Angels of baseball. They depend on Pujols, and now they're in last place. But that's a whole nother story. In early April, Stan Van Gundy claimed that top-ranking officials on the team had told him that Dwight Howard had asked management to fire him as a condition of the center signing a long-term contract beyond 2013. Howard denied it. Van Gundy coached the Magic for 5 seasons. He finished with a 259 and a 135 record, but he only went 31-28 in the playoffs. Well, unless you're a Magic fan, people wish Stan Van Gundy the best in the future. Maybe they'll get a good coach and they actually could have a good shot in the playoffs next year. But honestly, this is one of the most interesting playoffs we've seen in a while. And you want to talk about one-man team, and I don't know, here's an even better example. Derrick Rose and the Chicago Bulls. When Rose got out, the Bulls were pretty much out of it too. And now, that's not just the playoffs. That was the regular season. When Rose was down, they struggled. So in the offseason, the Bulls have to get more playmakers to back up Derrick Rose. Because Lord knows how healthy his legs are come start of the next season. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the J-Karp Show. I'll catch you next time.